I died at 35 during what was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. My husband Adrian stood up, took my twin sister Claire's hand, and announced to our entire family that they were in love and getting married. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, just stared at my identical twin, my mirror image, wearing my smile, my style, sitting in what should have been my life. "I'm sorry, Sophia," Adrian said, not looking sorry at all. "But Claire is who I was meant to be with. She's everything you are, but better." My mother gasped. My father reached for me. But Claire just smiled, that same smile we'd shared in every childhood photo, and said the words that stopped my heart. "I've been sleeping with your husband for 3 years. Your entire marriage was a lie. And honestly, you're so boring. I'm surprised he stayed as long as he did." I felt something rupture inside my chest. The room spun. My last thought before everything went black was, she's been me all along. Better me. The me he actually wanted. My name is Sophia Reed, or it was. I died at 35 of a massive heart attack brought on by shock and betrayal. My twin sister Claire, identical in every physical way but superior in every way that mattered to my husband, had stolen my life while I'd been too blind to notice. Then I opened my eyes. I was 22 years old, sitting in a rental car outside my college reunion venue, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My younger face looked back at me. No lines of stress, no shadows of suspicion, just the innocent features of someone who still believed in happily ever after. This was the night I'd met Adrian, our 10-year college reunion, the night that had started the chain of events leading to my death. And sitting in the passenger seat, applying lipstick with the same casual confidence she'd always had, was Claire. "Ready?" my twin asked, catching my eye in the mirror. "It's been forever since we've seen anyone from college. This is going to be fun." I stared at her, my exact double down to the freckle on our left cheekbone. In my original timeline, I'd been so excited to bring Claire to the reunion. She hadn't gone to my college. She'd studied abroad in Paris while I'd stayed local. I'd wanted to show off my successful twin, introduce her to my college friends, share my world with her. I'd introduced her to Adrian that night. My wonderful friend Adrian, the guy I'd had a crush on for 4 years but never confessed to because I was too shy. The smart, funny, kind man who'd been my study partner, my confidant, my almost but not quite. Claire had talked to him for 5 minutes and he'd been captivated. By the end of the night, he'd asked for her number. She'd laughed and said no. She was moving to New York, didn't want to start something she couldn't finish, so he'd asked for my number instead. Second choice. Consolation prize. The twin he could actually have. And I'd been so grateful, so thrilled, so fucking stupid that I'd said yes. "Sophia." Claire waved her hand in front of my face. Earth to my twin. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, my voice strange to my own ears. "Just nervous." "Since when are you nervous?" "You're the extroverted one." Claire smiled. "I'm the one who should be nervous. I don't know anyone here." In my previous timeline, I'd reassured her, promised to introduce her to everyone, made sure she felt included and comfortable. This time I locked the doors and turned to face her. "Claire, I need to ask you something." "Okay." She looked puzzled. "Have you ever been jealous of me?" Something flickered across her face, too fast for me to read. "What kind of question is that?" "An honest one." Claire was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes. When we were kids, Mom and Dad always made you the standard I had to live up to. Why can't you be more like Sophia? Why can't you make friends as easily? Why aren't you as happy? I didn't know that bothered you." "Of course you didn't." Claire's smile was brittle. "You were too busy being perfect to notice I was struggling to be half as good." "I'm not perfect. That's what makes it worse. You don't even try. Everything just comes naturally to you, friends, success, happiness, while I have to work twice as hard for half the result." I stared at my twin, seeing for the first time the resentment I'd been blind to in my previous life. "Do you hate me?" "Hate you?" Claire laughed. "Sophia, you're my twin. My literal other half. I could never hate you." But something in her eyes told me different. "I think we should skip the reunion," I said suddenly. "What? Why?" I have a bad feeling." "A bad feeling?" Claire looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Sophia, we drove 2 hours for this. All your friends are in there. You've been talking about this for weeks. I know, but nothing. Come on. She unlocked the doors and got out before I could stop her. I sat there for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, heart racing. I could leave. I could drive away right now, never go inside, never introduce Claire to Adrian. But then what? Avoid my own college reunion? Never see Adrian again? Live my whole life paranoid about what might happen? No. This time I'd be smarter. I'd watch Claire carefully. I'd protect what was mine. I got out of the car and followed my twin inside. The reunion was in full swing, music, laughter. People I hadn't seen in years. My college friends rushed over, hugging me, exclaiming over how great I looked. And then I saw him. Adrian, 22 years old, with his easy smile and kind eyes. He was across the room talking to some guys from our study group, and he looked so young, so innocent, so completely unaware that in 13 years he'd choose my twin over me. Who's that? Claire asked, following my gaze. No one important, I lied. He's gorgeous. He's taken. Another lie. Adrian was single. Very, very single. Claire raised an eyebrow. Protective much? Is he the guy you had a crush on? No. He totally is. Oh my God, Sophia. Your face just gave everything away. Claire grinned. Well, what are you waiting for? Go talk to him. I can't just. Of course you can. You're Sophia Reed. You can talk to anyone. She gave me a little push. Go. I'll mingle. I watched as Claire moved into the crowd, her confidence natural and effortless. People were drawn to her immediately. She had that quality, that magnetism that made people want to be near her. I'd always thought we were identical. But we weren't. Not really. Claire was the better version. I shook off the thought and made my way toward Adrian. He saw me coming and his face lit up. Sophia. I was hoping you'd be here. He pulled me into a hug that felt exactly as I remembered, warm, safe, friend-zoned. Hey Adrian. It's been too long. Way too long. How have you been? I heard you got that job in Boston. We fell into easy conversation talking about our careers, our lives, catching up on years apart. Adrian was working for a tech startup, excited about the future, still the optimistic guy I'd fallen for in college. And I realized something that made my chest ache. I'd loved this man for 13 years across 2 lifetimes. I'd married him, built a life with him, and lost him to my twin. But standing here now, talking to him at 22, I wondered, had he ever really been mine? So who's that? Adrian nodded toward someone across the room. I turned and saw Claire, surrounded by a group of people, laughing at something someone said. She glowed, there was no other word for it. She'd always had that quality, that ability to be the center of attention effortlessly. That's my twin sister, Claire. You have a twin? Adrian's eyes widened. Why didn't you ever mention? Wait. Is that who you lived with freshman year? Different college. She studied in Paris. She's. Adrian trailed off, still staring at Claire. And I knew exactly what was about to happen. She's identical to you, Adrian said finally, turning back to me. But different somehow. She's more confident, I said flatly. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. I forced a smile. It's okay. Everyone notices. Claire's the fun twin. I'm the responsible one. I like responsible, Adrian said gently. But he was still glancing at Claire. I made a decision then, one I hadn't made in my previous timeline. Do you want to get out of here? I asked. Adrian looked surprised. Leave the reunion? Yeah. Let's go somewhere quiet. Just us. Like old times. In my previous timeline, I'd stayed at the reunion for hours. I'd been the one to suggest Adrian meet Claire, proud to show off my interesting twin. I'd orchestrated my own betrayal. This time I was taking control. Sure, Adrian said slowly. There's a coffee shop down the street that should still be open. We left together and I didn't look back to see if Claire had noticed. At the coffee shop, Adrian and I talked for hours, really talked in a way we hadn't since college. He told me about his startup, his dreams, his fears. I told him about my job in marketing, my apartment in Boston, my plans for the future. And somewhere in those hours something shifted. I should have done this years ago, Adrian said as we walked back to the reunion venue to get our cars. Done what? Asked you out properly. Not as study partners or friends. As more. My heart stuttered. In my previous timeline, Adrian had never said this. He dated Claire for 3 months before she'd left for New York. Then a year later he'd called me, heartbroken, lonely, looking for the consolation twin. This time was different. I'd like that, I said. Adrian smiled and reached for my hand. His fingers interlaced with mine, felt familiar and new all at once. When we got back to the parking lot, Claire was leaning against my car, looking furious. "Where the hell have you been?" she demanded. "I've been waiting for an hour." "Sorry." Adrian and I went for coffee. Claire's eyes dropped to our joined hands, and something dark flashed across her face. "I see. Claire, this is Adrian." Adrian, my twin Claire. They looked at each other for a long moment, and I saw it, the same spark I'd seen in my previous timeline, the same magnetic pull. "Nice to meet you," Adrian said politely, not letting go of my hand. "Likewise." Claire's smile was sharp. "Sophia's told me so much about you." "She has." "Oh yes. Her college crush. The one she never had the guts to ask out." Claire's eyes glinted. "I'm so glad you finally made a move. My sister deserves someone who appreciates her." The words were kind. The tone was not. On the drive back to our shared apartment, Claire was silent. I kept glancing at her, but she stared out the window, face unreadable. "Are you mad?" I asked finally. "Why would I be mad? You seem upset." "I'm not upset. I'm just surprised." "Surprised by what?" Claire turned to look at me. "That you finally went for something you wanted instead of waiting for it to fall into your lap." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Forget it." But I couldn't forget it, because something in Claire's voice reminded me of her final words in my previous life. "You're so boring, I'm surprised he stayed as long as he did." That night, lying in my bed in our shared apartment, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Adrian, about Claire, about the tangled web of my two timelines. Then I heard it, soft crying from Claire's room. I got up and knocked gently. "Claire? You okay? Go away. Come on, talk to me." The door opened. Claire's face was blotchy from crying, her eyes red. She looked broken in a way I'd never seen before. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Do you know what it's like?" Claire whispered. "To be someone's identical twin but never be quite good enough? To have everyone compare you constantly and find you lacking." "Claire, you don't know. You can't know. Because you're the original and I'm the copy. You're the standard and I'm the deviation." She wiped her eyes angrily. "Even tonight. I spent hours at that reunion and everyone asked where you were. Have you seen Sophia? Where did Sophia go? Tell Sophia we miss her. Like I was just your placeholder. That's not true. And then you come back holding hands with the one guy I actually found interesting. The one person who looked at me like I was someone special, until he found out I was your twin. Then I just became Sophia's sister." My chest tightened. "You were interested in Adrian? It doesn't matter now, does it? He's yours. Everything's always yours." Claire's laugh was bitter. "Story of my life." She closed the door, and I stood there in the hallway stunned. In my previous timeline, I'd never known Claire felt this way. She'd always seemed so confident, so self-assured. But maybe that was the mask she wore. The same way I wore the mask of the responsible twin. Maybe we'd both been pretending our whole lives. Over the next few weeks, Adrian and I started dating officially. He was everything I remembered and more. Attentive, funny, genuinely interested in my life. We had the relationship I'd always dreamed of, the one I'd never quite had in my previous timeline. But Claire was changing. She became distant, cold. She stopped joining me and Adrian when he came over. She took a job in New York and moved out a month later, exactly as she'd done in my previous timeline. "Is she okay?" Adrian asked one night as we watched a movie on the couch. "I think so." "Why?" "She just seems, I don't know, sad. She's always been a bit melancholy." "Still, she's your twin. Aren't you worried?" I thought about that. Was I worried? In my previous timeline, I'd been too wrapped up in my new relationship with Adrian to notice Claire's struggles. I'd been so grateful to finally have him that I'd neglected my twin. Was I making the same mistake again? "I should call her," I said. But when I did, Claire's voice was bright, fake cheerful. "Everything's great. New York is amazing. I love my job. I'm meeting so many interesting people. Are you sure? I sound fine, Sophia. Stop worrying. I'm happy for you and Adrian, really. You deserve this. She hung up before I could press further. 2 months into dating Adrian, he said the words that made my heart soar. I love you. We were walking through a park in Boston, leaves falling around us, and he stopped, took my hands, and looked at me with complete sincerity. I don't know why it took me so long to see what was right in front of me, he said. But I love you, Sophia. I think I always have. In my previous timeline, he'd said those words 2 years after we'd started dating. They'd felt hard-won, precious proof that I was finally enough. This time they came easily, naturally, and they felt real. I love you too, I said. And I did. God, I did. 6 months later, Adrian proposed. A year later, we got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Claire came to the wedding. She smiled in all the photos. She gave a beautiful maid of honor speech about sisterhood and love and finding your person. But when she hugged me before I walked down the aisle, she whispered, I hope you're happy, Sophia. I hope he's everything you dreamed of. Something in her voice made me pull back. Claire, I'm fine. Really. This is your day. Enjoy it. Our wedding was perfect. Our honeymoon was perfect. Our first year of marriage was perfect. Everything was exactly as I dreamed in my previous timeline, before it had all fallen apart. I should have been happy. I should have been relieved. Instead, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on our first anniversary. Claire came to visit. Her first time back to Boston since the wedding. She looked different, thinner, more polished, more like the Claire from my original timeline. The confident, magnetic Claire who'd stolen my husband. You look amazing, I said, hugging her at the airport. New York agrees with me. Claire smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. At home, Adrian greeted Claire warmly. It's been too long. How have you been? They talked easily, comfortably, and I watched, paranoid, looking for signs of the attraction that had destroyed my previous life. But there was nothing. Adrian was friendly but distant. Claire was polite but cool. They were strangers who happened to know the same person. Maybe this timeline really was different. That night, the three of us had dinner at our favorite restaurant. Wine flowed, conversation was easy, and for the first time in a year I relaxed. Then Claire excused herself to the bathroom, and Adrian leaned over. Can I ask you something? Sure. Is Claire okay? She seems off. What do you mean? I don't know. Like she's pretending to be happy but isn't quite pulling it off. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Can you come to the bathroom? Emergency. I found her standing by the sinks, staring at her reflection with an expression that made my blood run cold. Claire? What's wrong? She turned to look at me, and her eyes were filled with something I couldn't quite name. Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if we weren't twins? What? If you were just you, without me as your shadow, without everyone always comparing us. She touched the mirror. I wonder sometimes what I'd be like if I wasn't always competing with you. We're not competing, aren't we? Claire laughed, the sound hollow. Sophia, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. My heart started pounding. What? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Shook her head. Never mind. It doesn't matter now. Claire. Forget it. Let's go back to dinner. But I couldn't forget it. Because something about that moment felt significant. Like a door had almost opened and then slammed shut. The rest of Claire's visit was strained. She left 2 days early, claiming work emergency, and I didn't try to stop her. Your sister is intense, Adrian said after she left. What do you mean? Just intense. Like she's carrying something heavy. He pulled me close. I'm glad I'm with you and not her. You're much easier to read. Was I though? I was living with knowledge of a future that hadn't happened. Watching my twin for signs of betrayal. Trying to prevent a tragedy I'd already lived through. How was that easier to read? 2 years into our marriage, I got pregnant. Adrian was thrilled. Our families were ecstatic. Claire said congratulations over the phone, her voice distant. Are you going to visit when the baby comes? I asked. I'll try. Work is crazy right now. Claire, is something wrong? You've been so distant. I'm fine, Sophia. Stop worrying about me. Focus on your perfect life. The baby came. A beautiful girl we named Emma. Adrian was an amazing father. My parents were devoted grandparents. Our life was everything I'd wanted. Claire visited when Emma was 3 months old. She held my daughter carefully like she might break, and tears ran down her face. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing. She's just perfect. Claire handed Emma back to me. You have everything, don't you? The husband, the baby, the house. The life. Claire. I'm happy for you. I really am. But she was sobbing now. Why can't I be happy for you without it hurting? What are you talking about? She wiped her eyes, forced a smile. Ignore me. Hormones or something. I should go. Stay. Please. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. Claire grabbed her purse. I have an early flight tomorrow anyway. She left, and something in my gut told me things were very wrong. I called her every day for a week. She never answered. Finally, her roommate picked up. Sophia? Claire's in the hospital. My world stopped. What? She tried to kill herself. Pills. I found her in time, but the roommate's voice broke. She left a note. It was addressed to you. I drove to New York that night, leaving Emma with Adrian. Found Claire in a psychiatric ward, pale and hollow-eyed. Why? I demanded, sitting beside her bed. Why would you do this? Claire stared at the ceiling. Because I'm tired. Of what? Of being your shadow. Of watching you have everything I want. Of competing with you every single day and losing. We're not competing. Yes, we are. Claire sat up suddenly, eyes wild. We've been competing since birth. For our parents' attention, for friends, for success, for everything. And you always win, Sophia. Always. You got the better grades, the better friends, the better life. And I'm just leftover. The spare twin. That's not true. Then why did Adrian choose you? The question hung in the air between us. What? I whispered. That night at the reunion. I saw him first. I talked to him first. And he was interested, Sophia. I could tell. But then he found out I was your twin, and suddenly I wasn't interesting anymore. I was just a copy of the real thing. Claire's laugh was bitter. Story of my life. Claire, I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You never see it. You never see how everyone chooses you over me. Mom and Dad. Our friends. Adrian. She looked at me with dead eyes. I tried so hard to not be jealous. To be happy for you. But I can't, Sophia. I can't watch you live the perfect life while I'm barely surviving. I grabbed her hand. You can't kill yourself because of me. I'm not killing myself because of you. I'm killing myself because of me. Because I'm so fucked up that I can't be happy for my own twin sister. What kind of person does that make me? It makes you human. No. It makes me a monster. Claire pulled her hand away. Do you want to know what I thought about when I took those pills? I thought. At least when I'm dead, I won't have to compete anymore. At least I'll finally be free. I felt tears streaming down my face. I love you. You're my twin, my other half. That's the problem, Sophia. I don't want to be your other half. I want to be whole on my own. But I don't know how. Claire was in the hospital for 2 weeks, then transferred to an outpatient program. I stayed in New York, sleeping on her roommate's couch, visiting every day. Adrian came once with Emma. Claire held our daughter and cried, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Pure, unconditional love mixed with absolute despair. She's so lucky, Claire whispered. She gets you as a mother. You could have this too, I said. Someday. No, I couldn't. Because every time I imagine a husband, I see Adrian. And every time I imagine a baby, I see Emma. I can't even dream without it being your dream first. That's when I realized, in my previous timeline, Claire hadn't just stolen my husband. She'd been trying to steal my entire life because she didn't know how to build her own. Over the next year, Claire worked with therapists. She cut contact with me, said she needed space to figure out who she was without me as a reference point. I let her go because I didn't know what else to do. Adrian and I focused on Emma, on our marriage, on building our life. And I tried not to think about my twin, alone in New York, trying to become someone other than my shadow. Then, on our 5th anniversary, Claire showed up unannounced at our door. She looked different, healthier, more at peace. "I'm sorry," she said. "For everything. For making you feel like you had to save me. For being jealous of your happiness. For trying to kill myself and making it your problem. Claire, I've been doing a lot of therapy, and I realized something. I've spent my entire life comparing myself to you. But the person I should have been competing with was myself. My own potential. My own happiness. I'm so glad," I said, hugging her tight. "I'm moving to California. Fresh start. I got a job offer and I think I need to be somewhere where no one knows I'm Sophia's twin. Will you be okay?" "I don't know. But I'm going to try." Claire left for California and I thought, maybe this time she'll find herself. Maybe this time things will be different. But on our 10th anniversary, the same year I died in my original timeline, I got a call from a California hospital. Claire had been in a car accident. She was alive but critical. I flew out immediately, leaving Adrian with Emma. Found Claire in ICU, bandaged and broken but conscious. "Hey," she whispered when she saw me. "Hey yourself. What happened?" "Drunk driver. T-boned me at an intersection." She tried to smile. "Apparently I'm not done being a pain in your ass yet." Over the next week as Claire recovered, we talked more honestly than we ever had. "Do you know what the worst part of almost dying was?" Claire asked one night. "What?" Realizing I still hadn't figured out how to be happy. I moved across the country, cut ties with everyone from my old life, started over completely. And I was still miserable. She looked at me. "Because I took myself with me. And I'm the problem, Sophia. I'm always going to be the problem." "That's not true." "It is. I'm fundamentally broken. I've been in therapy for 5 years and I still can't look at your perfect life without wanting to die." I grabbed her hand. "My life isn't perfect." "Yes, it is. Husband who adores you. Beautiful daughter. Career you love. Everything you touch turns to gold while everything I touch turns to shit. Claire, I need to tell you something." She took a deep breath. "Something I've never told anyone." "Okay. That night at your college reunion, when you left with Adrian." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to kill myself right then. I went back to our apartment and took out pills and just sat there, staring at them, thinking about how easy it would be." "Why didn't you?" "Because I was angry. Not sad angry. Angry that you got him. Angry that you always got everything. And I made a decision that night." She looked at me directly. "I decided that someday somehow I would take something from you. Something important. As payback for a lifetime of being second best." My blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that for 10 years I've been planning my revenge. Waiting for the right moment to destroy your perfect life, the way mine has always been destroyed." Claire's voice was flat, detached. "And the funny thing is, the car accident might have saved me from myself. Because I was going to do it, Sophia. I was going to sleep with your husband and tell you about it on your 10th anniversary. Full circle, right?" I couldn't breathe. Were you already?" "No. I never acted on it. Because despite everything, despite how much I hate you sometimes, I love you more." Tears ran down Claire's face. "And that's what makes it so fucked up. I love you so much that I want to destroy you. How sick is that?" I sat there processing what she just told me. In my original timeline, Claire had acted on it. She'd seduced Adrian, destroyed my marriage, and ultimately caused my death. This time, she'd confessed before acting. This time she'd made a different choice. "Claire," I said slowly, "I need to tell you something too. Something impossible but true." "What?" "This isn't the first time we've lived this life. In another timeline, another version of us, you did it. You slept with Adrian. You took him from me. And on our 10th anniversary when you told me, I had a heart attack and died." Claire stared at me. "What?" "Then I woke up at age 22 at the college reunion. And I've been living in fear for 10 years, waiting for you to steal him. Waiting for the betrayal. Trying to prevent it." "You're serious?" "Completely serious." Claire was quiet for a long moment. Then she started laughing. Hysterical, slightly unhinged laughter. "Oh my God. Oh my God. You've been paranoid this whole time? Watching me, waiting for me to betray you." "Yes." And I have been planning to betray you. She laughed harder. We're both insane. We're actually insane. Probably. Claire's laughter faded into something like sobs. Sophia, I'm so sorry. For everything. For being jealous and bitter and planning revenge. For making you live in fear. For being such a shit sister. I'm sorry too. For not seeing how much you were struggling. For being so wrapped up in my own life that I didn't notice you were drowning. So what do we do now? I thought about that. About 2 timelines, 2 versions of our lives. About all the ways we'd hurt each other, deliberately and accidentally. I think, I said slowly, we both need to accept that being twins doesn't mean having the same life. You don't have to compete with me, Claire. You don't have to beat me or be better than me. You just have to be yourself. But I don't know who that is. Then we figure it out together. But not as twins competing. As twins supporting. Claire squeezed my hand. I'd like that. Over the next 5 years, Claire and I rebuilt our relationship from the ground up. She stayed in therapy. I started therapy too because carrying the knowledge of 2 timelines was its own kind of trauma. Claire met someone. A kind man named James who loved her for herself, not as my twin. They got married when we were 35, the same age I died in my original timeline. At her wedding, Claire's vows included something that made me cry. James, you're the first person who ever made me feel like I was enough. Not better than someone else. Not in competition with someone else. Just enough exactly as I am. After the ceremony, Claire found me. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For telling me the truth about the other timeline. For giving me a chance to make different choices. You gave yourself that chance. You chose differently. We both did. Claire hugged me tight. In the other timeline, I destroyed you because I couldn't stand your happiness. In this one, I'm building my own. That's growth, right? That's growth. The years passed. Emma grew up. Claire had 2 children of her own. Our families got together for holidays. We talked on the phone weekly honestly about our struggles and our joys. And slowly, painfully, we both learned to be whole people instead of halves of each other. When I was 45, Adrian got a job offer in California. Not far from Claire. We moved, and suddenly we were closer than we'd been since college. It's weird, Claire said over coffee one day. In my darkest moments, I fantasized about stealing your life. And now we live 2 miles apart, and I'm genuinely happy to see you. Character development, I joked. Seriously though, how did we get here? Therapy, honesty, and second chances, literally and figuratively. 50 Claire got sick. Cancer. Aggressive, fast-moving. I was with her through every treatment, every setback, every small victory. And for the first time in our lives, there was no competition, no resentment, no shadow of jealousy. Just 2 sisters fighting for one of their lives. But cancer doesn't care about character development or second chances. Claire died at 52, surrounded by her family. Her last words were to me. Tell me the truth, she whispered. In the other timeline. When you died. Was I happy? I thought about lying. But we'd promised honesty. No, I said. You got everything you wanted, Adrian, my life, everything. But you weren't happy. As it wasn't really yours. It was stolen. Claire smiled weakly. Good. I'm glad this version was better. Me too. Sophia? I need you to know something. In this life I chose right. I chose to build instead of destroy. And even though I'm dying too young, I'm dying happy. That's more than I deserved. You deserved everything. No. But I got it anyway. A husband who loved me. Kids who will remember me kindly. A sister who forgave me even when I didn't forgive myself. She squeezed my hand. Thank you for giving me this chance. You gave it to yourself. We gave it to each other. Claire died 3 hours later, with James holding one hand and me holding the other. At her funeral, I gave the eulogy. My twin sister Claire and I had a complicated relationship. We competed, we fought, we hurt each other in ways only siblings can. But we also loved each other in ways that transcended everything else. Claire struggled with being a twin. She felt like she lived in my shadow, that she was always being compared to me. And she was right. Society does that to twins, makes them compete for individuality while expecting them to be identical. But Claire found herself. Not by competing with me but by choosing to be herself. She built a beautiful life, loved deeply, and taught me that second chances, whether literal or metaphorical, are precious gifts that should never be wasted. I will miss my twin every day for the rest of my life. But I'm grateful that in her last years we were truly sisters. Not competitors. Not shadows. Just two whole people who shared DNA and love. Adrian squeezed my shoulder as I returned to my seat. Emma, now grown with a daughter of her own, hugged me tight. And I thought about both my lives, the one where Claire's jealousy destroyed us both, and this one where we both made different choices. This version was better. Harder, more honest, but better. 20 years after Claire's death, I was 72 years old, sitting in my favorite chair, when Emma visited with her teenage daughter, my granddaughter, named Claire after her great-aunt. "Grandma, I need to ask you something," young Claire said. "What's that, sweetheart?" "At school, everyone says I look exactly like Mom, that we could be twins, and it makes me feel weird." "Weird how?" "Like I'm just a copy of her. Like I'm not my own person." I looked at my granddaughter, so much like Emma, who was so much like me. For generations of similar faces, each one fighting to be seen as an individual. "Let me tell you about your great-aunt Claire," I said. "The one you're named after." I told her everything, not about the rebirth, but about the struggle of being a twin, about competition and jealousy and the hard work of becoming yourself when everyone compares you to someone else. "Aunt Claire spent most of her life competing with me," I said. "And she was miserable. Then she learned something important. You don't have to be better than anyone else. You just have to be yourself. But what if yourself isn't as good? Good at what? There's no universal scale for measuring human worth. You're not a copy of your mother. You're the first and only version of you. That's what makes you valuable." Young Claire thought about that. Did Aunt Claire figure that out? Eventually. And when she did, she was happier than she'd ever been. Do you miss her? Every day. But I'm grateful we had the time we did. We almost destroyed each other. Instead, we saved each other. How? By choosing to be honest instead of perfect. By supporting each other instead of competing. By remembering that we were on the same team, even when it didn't feel like it. That night, Emma found me looking at old photo albums. Pictures of Claire and me throughout our lives. Two identical faces but different smiles, different eyes, different lives. "You okay, Mom?" Emma asked. "Just remembering." "Tell me about Aunt Claire. The real stuff, not the sanitized version." So I did. I told her about Claire's suicide attempt, her jealousy, her struggles. I told her about my own paranoia, my fear, my determination to prevent a future I'd already lived. "Wait," Emma said. "Are you saying you actually lived through another timeline?" "I'm saying I remember living through another timeline. Whether it was real or just a vivid premonition, I'll never know. But it shaped everything I did. And in that timeline, Aunt Claire really did steal Dad? She did. And it destroyed both of us." Emma was quiet for a moment. "I'm glad this timeline happened instead." "Me too." "Mom, do you think it's possible? The rebirth thing." I thought about that. I think consciousness is strange. Maybe I really did live twice. Maybe I just had prophetic intuition. Or maybe I was so afraid of losing your father that I imagined an entire alternate reality where it happened. I smiled. Does it matter? The choices I made with that knowledge, real or imagined, led to this life. A better life. So you don't regret anything? I regret that Claire suffered so much. I regret that she died young. But I don't regret the choices that led to us being honest with each other. Honesty was painful, but it was also healing. Adrian appeared in the doorway. "Talking about Claire?" "Always," I said. He sat down beside me. "You know what she said to me once? Right before she died." "What?" "She said, 'Take care of Sophia. She saved my life by not saving me.' I didn't understand it then. But I think I do now." "What did she mean?" "She meant that by letting her struggle, by not rescuing her from her own mistakes, you gave her the chance to save herself. That's real love. Letting someone face consequences and grow from them." I thought about my two timelines. In the first, I'd been so eager to share everything with Claire, to include her, to make her feel loved, that I'd never seen her resentment building. I'd enabled her jealousy by being too accommodating. In the second, I'd protected myself, set boundaries, let her face her own demons. And she'd grown from it. I miss her, I said. I know, Adrian said. But she lived a good life in the end. That's what matters. When I was 75, I was diagnosed with heart disease, the same condition that had killed me in my original timeline. But this time, I'd lived 43 years longer. Emma moved in to help care for me. Young Claire visited often, now studying psychology with a focus on twin studies. Grandma, she said one day, I'm writing my thesis on twin rivalry and identity formation. Can I interview you? Of course. She asked me detailed questions about growing up as a twin, about comparison and competition, about how Claire and I had navigated our relationship. You know what's interesting? Young Claire said. Based on your descriptions, Aunt Claire showed signs of dependent personality disorder mixed with comparison-based depression. She literally couldn't form an identity separate from you. Could she have been helped? Earlier. I mean, maybe. With the right therapy at a young age. But the challenge with twins is that the comparison starts at birth. Baby A is bigger. Baby B is quieter. It's constant. So she never had a chance? No, she did. She took it. Eventually. Most people with those issues never do. Young Claire smiled. You both did something remarkable. You broke a toxic pattern and rebuilt your relationship. That's rare. On my deathbed, dying the same way I died at 35, but at 75 instead, I thought about my two lives. In the first, I died heartbroken, betrayed, convinced I'd wasted my life loving someone who'd never truly been mine. In the second, I'd lived fully, loved deeply, built a family, supported my sister through her struggles and watched her find happiness. Adrian held my hand as my heart slowed. I love you, he whispered. I've loved you since that college reunion. I've never regretted choosing you. Even though Claire was more exciting, you were never second choice, Sophia. You were the right choice. The only choice. He kissed my forehead. Thank you for trusting me. For building this life with me. For giving me Emma and this family. Thank you for seeing me. I managed. For loving me. For being worth fighting for. Emma sat on my other side, holding my other hand. Mom, I need you to know something. Aunt Claire wrote you a letter before she died. She asked me to give it to you on your deathbed. Read it to me. Emma pulled out an envelope, Claire's handwriting on the front. To Sophia when it's your turn. She read. Dear Sophia, if you're hearing this, I've died and now you're dying too. Fitting since we started this life together. I need you to know that in my last years I was genuinely happy. Not happy that I beat you or became better than you, but happy that I became myself. You gave me that gift by refusing to enable my jealousy. You saved me by not saving me. You told me once about the other timeline where I destroyed you. I've thought about that a lot. Who would I have been in that world? Probably someone who won everything and felt nothing. Someone who stole your life but never built her own. I'm grateful that's not how our story went. Thank you for being my twin. Thank you for competing with me when we were young, it made me stronger. Thank you for supporting me when I was broken, it made me whole. Thank you for being honest even when honesty hurt. You were my first friend, my biggest rival, my truest supporter, and my greatest teacher. I'll see you on the other side, where maybe we can finally just be two souls without the competition of identical faces. I love you, Sophia. I always did, even when I hated you. Asterisk your twin, Claire. I died 3 hours later with Adrian and Emma beside me. At my funeral, young Claire gave a eulogy about her grandmother and great-aunt, about twin bonds and individuality, about the courage it takes to be yourself when everyone expects you to be someone else. And she ended with something that made everyone cry. Grandma Sophia and Aunt Claire taught me that being identical doesn't mean being the same. They showed me that you can love someone and compete with them, hurt them and heal them, be completely different while looking exactly alike. They both struggled with the question every twin asks. Am I me or am I just half of us? And they both found the same answer. You're always both. You're an individual with your own identity, and you're also forever connected to someone who shares your face and your DNA and your history. That's not a weakness. That's a gift. Grandma and Aunt Claire gave each other many gifts over their lives. Love, honesty, second chances, forgiveness. But the greatest gift was teaching each other that being a twin doesn't mean being less of an individual. It means being part of something larger than yourself while still being completely uniquely you. They both found themselves by letting go of the need to be better than each other. And in doing so, they both won. Epilogue 30 years later. My great-granddaughter found Claire's and my journals while cleaning out Emma's house after her death. Emma had kept them, along with letters and photos documenting our complex relationship. She published them as a book, Twin Flames. One story, two lives. It became required reading in psychology courses about twin studies, identity formation, and sibling rivalry. Students debated whether I'd really been reborn, or just had incredibly accurate intuition. Therapists used our story as an example of breaking toxic family patterns. Twin support groups cited us as proof that rivalry doesn't have to define you. But the part that resonated most was something Claire had written in her private journal, discovered after her death. People always asked if I was jealous of Sophia. The truth is more complicated. I wasn't jealous of her, I was jealous of her. I wanted to be her. Because being me was too hard, too painful, too much like losing a competition I never chose to enter. But therapy taught me something. You can't win a competition that doesn't exist. Sophia and I were never actually competing. Society was making us compete. Our parents were making us compete. We were making ourselves compete. The moment I stopped trying to beat her and started trying to be myself, I won. Not against her, against the part of me that thought I had to be someone else to be enough. If I could tell every twin out there struggling with identity, I'd say this: your twin isn't your competition. Your twin is your first companion in a world that will constantly try to compare you. Love them, compete with them if you must, but never forget that you're both fighting the same battle. The battle to be seen as individuals while being treated as a pair. And Sophia, if you're reading this after I'm gone, you were never the problem. You were the mirror that showed me who I didn't want to be, which helped me figure out who I did want to be. Thank you for being patient while I learned the difference. I love you, twin. Both our lives were better because you refused to let me destroy us both. That's how our story ends, or maybe how it continues, in the lives of twins everywhere who struggle with the same questions we struggled with. Am I me or am I half of us? Can I be myself without competing with the person who shares my face? Can I love my twin without losing myself? The answer we found over 2 lifetimes in 75 years, yes. But only if you're brave enough to be honest, strong enough to set boundaries, and wise enough to remember that the person who looks like you isn't your competition. They're just the person who understands better than anyone else ever could what it's like to be both an individual and half of a pair. My name was Sophia Reed. I died at 35, betrayed by my twin and my husband. I lived again to 75 with my twin and my husband both by my side, honestly and imperfectly. One life was tragedy. One life was triumph. Both lives taught me that being a twin is the greatest blessing and the hardest challenge. And that second chances, whether literal or metaphorical, should never be wasted on revenge. They should be spent on building something better than what broke you.